Franklin County Board of County Commissioners for April 14th, 2020 with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Boyce.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we learned that doing anything in unison on Zoom a couple of weeks ago when we tried to sing Happy Birthday is always a difficult thing to do. So even the Pledge of Allegiance gets a little bit cumbersome, but thank you, Commissioner Boyce. I appreciate it. We need the approval of the minutes of the April 9th, 2020 briefing session and the April 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10, 2020 administrative briefings. Commissioner Boyce.
I'm sorry, so much trying to get off mute. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded voting. Commissioner Boyce?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady?
Yes.
The minutes have been approved.
All right, on to the engineer.
Resolution number 250-20. Resolution adopting the Franklin County Engineers Annual Review and Amendment to the 10-year Capital Improvement Program for roads and bridges.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Morning.
My name is Cornell Robertson, Franklin County Engineer. And if I could, I'd like to take just a minute to say thank you to all the teammates at the Franklin County Engineers Office. I know we're all in a very difficult time, but I'm especially proud of the teammates there at the office and how they've risen to the challenge. We have a 24/7 operation there to maintain our roads and bridges, and they're doing great work, and I just wanted to give them a shout out. Thank you. This first resolution is the 10-year capital improvement program. This is a second year for this particular resolution, and we've always looked well into the future at the projects that we want to accomplish. And so this was an idea fostered by Administrator Ken Wilson last year. I think it's an excellent idea to kind of clearly show our plans for the future and on a regular basis, annual basis, to share what we've completed and what we're adding to that list. And so there are approximately 70 capital improvement projects. And last year we scratched off 7 that we completed, and we have added another 15. So I like to say it's very similar to my honey-do list here at home, where I complete 1 item and we add 2. Pending any questions, I respectfully request your approval.
If there are no comments or questions, move for adoption of 250-20.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded voting. Commissioner Boyce?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady?
Yes.
Resolution number 250-20 has been adopted. Commissioner O'Grady, we have a public hearing this morning, sir.
He's on mute.
Hold on 1 second, Commissioner, you're muted.
I didn't see it there. I'm reading it on my phone, therefore I need to blow it up. Dean, if you could read the public hearing into the record.
Of course, Commissioner. Plans to be approved for the 2020 County Resurfacing Program.
Cornell?
Okay, this is the 2020 annual county resurfacing program. This is very important to our community. We have 9 sections of roadways that we've highlighted for resurfacing. This covers about 16 miles for about $4.2 million. I have the title sheet here, which I'll deliver to the courthouse later today if you all approve this resolution for your signature. And then in doing so, this will allow us to take the next step, which will be to schedule the program for bid opening.
If there's no questions or comments, Dean, if you could read Resolution 25120 into the record.
Thank you, Commissioner. Resolution number 251-20 is approved for the 2020 resurfacing program for various Franklin County roads, Franklin County, Ohio.
Okay, if there are no comments or questions, move for adoption of 251-20.
Second.
Moved and seconded voting. Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 251-20 has been adopted.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Cornell.
Thank you, commissioners. Stay safe.
You too. Thank
You
you.
as well. On to the corner.
Commissioner, before reading the resolution into the record, I wanted to point out that the resolution that is in your briefing packet for today is accurate and factual. However, the not to exceed amount was inadvertently omitted from the agenda. So the facts are accurate. The contract amount I will read as it should have been listed on the agenda, but all of the facts remain accurate and are correct in the materials that you were sent. So resolution number 2, Commissioner Boyce, I'm sorry, did you have a question, sir?
Sorry, that was me. I was saying thank you.
Thank you. Resolution number 252-20, resolution authorizing a product supply agreement and bulk supply rider with Praxair for delivery, monitoring, and on-site tank storage of liquid nitrogen in the amount of $5,000, not to exceed $22,500.
Okay, if there are no comments or questions, move for adoption of 252. Oh, sorry. I guess the coroner's office. Does it go?
Yes, good morning. This is Kara Kirkshank, Director of Facilities and IT, representing the Franklin County Coroner. The Coroner's Office is requesting a contract with Praxair to supply bulk nitrogen to the Forensic Science Center. The Forensic Science Center has a low-pressure bulk nitrogen tank that is included in the construction of the building. The supply of nitrogen in bulk will prevent high-pressure tanks from coming directly into the building, reduce laboratory staff handling of high-pressure tanks, and save money by purchasing the nitrogen in bulk. This contract is for a maximum of 3 years and will not exceed the amount of $22,500.
Great. If there are no comments or questions, move for adoption of 252-20.
Second.
Moved and seconded voting. Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 252-20 has been adopted.
Thank you.
All right. Now on to the Economic Development and Planning Department.
Resolution number 253-20, resolution authorizing an economic development agreement with Rev1 Ventures for support of the Entrepreneurial Services Provider Program in the amount of $300,000.
Commissioners, Jim Schimmer and Mark Paxson over here at Economic Development and Planning. Commissioners, this first of 5 resolutions is to authorize an economic development agreement with Rev1 for support of the Entrepreneurial Signature Program. This program the background on the program is that the state of Ohio's Entrepreneurial Services Provider Program, known as ESP, is a reauthorization of a successful initiative that began in 2007. Franklin County's funding allows Rev1 to access Ohio Third Frontier grant dollars on a one-to-one basis. So for every dollar received from Franklin County, Rev1 is able to draw down $1 from the state. Funding for this economic development agreement continues the efforts that the commissioners have had in place since 2007. And it is specifically focused on the area of startup companies as they relate to technology. Under this agreement, Rev1 will provide services to 20 promising entrepreneurial startup companies in Franklin County with the purpose of creating jobs. Rev1, in their normal process of doing business, works on areas of product development, markets definition, the concept and idea exploration with combined with real-world advice, financial modeling, and personnel growth strategies. The key here, though, commissioners, has been the excellent return on our dollars that we've had over this period. Our grant for this year will run from January 20th through December 31st of 2020. I know that Tom Walker and I believe Christy Campbell are on this call as well. Tom might be able, or Christy may be able to talk a little bit about the return on the county's investment.
Good morning, commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be in front of you. I hope you are all safe and well. On behalf of the board and the full staff at Rev 1, I want to thank you for this continued partnership. Together, we have really been making a huge impact on the economy in our region and turning our county into one of the more vibrant startup technology hubs in the country. We've made over a $2.4 billion economic impact to the region since 2014. So the companies that we've supported with your assistance have been bringing in a lot of capital from outside of Ohio and into our region in the form of investment dollars, as well as the revenue that they've been growing. In just the last few weeks, we've turned our model into a 100% virtual model. We've been providing education over Zoom, and the entrepreneurs are responding in a really great fashion. I do have Christy Campbell, who you all know is our Chief Operating Officer, online. I think she'd love to share some of the stats on our diversity and inclusion programs, as well as 3 companies that are making a big impact behind the scenes on this COVID crisis. So Christy?
Sure. Good morning, and thank you everyone for allowing us to join you this morning and for your continued support. As Tom mentioned, this work is really important and even more important now as we work hand in hand with our clients to help them apply for relief funding, iterate on their business plan, and successfully communicate with customers during this time. Last year we were so excited to be able to invest more than ever into companies, 14 million total in 35 companies, and added 30 new clients to our Startup Studio program. One of the things we're most proud of is that our clients are extremely diverse and continuing to diversify. Nearly 60% of them have a diverse, either woman or minority, founder or inventor behind the company. This is a trend that continues to grow as our partnerships in the community grow. We're really proud to work closely both with the county and the city to drive regional inclusive innovation initiatives. Our work and support for the Franklin County Forward Cities Accelerator, and more recently as an ecosystem builder for the city, are really helping us all collectively coalesce the community around underserved entrepreneurs. I'm personally really proud also to just lead the Capital Provision Working Committee to be able to help provide both capital and capital access training to entrepreneurs in underserved communities. I'll just call out a couple of the companies that we're working with that are doing some really good work amid the COVID crisis. Many of you have probably heard of UpDocs, which is one of our longer standing, and more successful healthcare IT companies. They create a secure communications and workflow software that connects with software at physician practices. Late last year, they added a video conferencing feature to their product, which is now helping patients stay connected to their healthcare providers while preventing them, access potential exposure to COVID. So before COVID-19, UpDocs was signing up about 500 new physician users per month. The platform is now hosting more than 45,000 virtual visits daily, which is on pace to be about 1.6 million per year. There was a nice article yesterday in Business First. ScriptDrop may be another software company you've heard of. They have an integrated prescription delivery service that recently went nationwide in early March. They've seen a 500% increase in orders. So big demand for what they're doing, and really important to allow especially seniors to stay home and have their prescriptions delivered to them. And then one of our more fun clients, Low Pow Point Waffles. So not all of them are software. They are a maker of gluten-free waffles. I was recently conversing with CEO Stacy Skinner via email, And she let me know that their shift to online sales has significantly increased. And with every bag of waffles they sell, they make a donation to the Mid-Ohio Food Bank. So for us, it's just really rewarding to see companies looking for ways to give back and broaden their work in the community. So thank you for your time and again for your support for this important work.
What you do is really important, and I know that you're talking about all the great things that are still happening. I'm sure some of the entrepreneurial work is not all happening that's so great. Are you seeing any challenges during COVID-19, and can you talk about that a little bit?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, we like to point out the companies that are growing amid this crisis, but we do have a number that are very challenged right now that have had to um, lay off employees and those kinds of things. As we have really been spending the majority of our time helping those companies. If you've had a chance to see some of our blogs, it's something I write about frequently. Just the kind of planning you need to do today to get to the other side of this. We've also been helping scores of companies through the SBA process. So working with partners at Huntington and Chase and Fifth Third, and the list goes on and on, helping companies access PPP. So there's a lot of unknowns. There are many companies that we all helped start before this crisis that may not be as important after this. We just don't know how the markets are going to shift, but we certainly are in the middle of an economic change without a doubt.
Is there anything that you're seeing that we could be helpful to you in other ways? Are there things that we could be doing differently that would help you?
Again, thank you for the question. I think us all staying connected is really important. Things like the recent county gap funding program, those types of things, as we get a little time under our belt, we can see who's able to access those kind of services and our services, and then who's left out. I think we all need to be nimble so that we can shift, because 3 weeks from now some of the needs may be different.
Absolutely. Thank you. And keep us informed as you see things that we could be helpful with. I know Jim and you and Eric and all of you are in close contact, so just keep us informed.
Will do.
Tom, in my time, I've never seen anything create such a rapid shift in the markets. Nothing creates such a volatile change. And so having a partner like you, somebody who is in the front end of helping businesses, helping companies that one are small, two are, as you say, nimble, and with tools that are in an environment that are able to move quickly, change. It's just important, and so this is kind of critical time, critical work, and so appreciate the partnership. Appreciate you being flexible, nimble, as you say, and being able to work with us and work with our team through this thing. This isn't anything like what I've seen in the past. And so there's a lot of companies out there that are looking for an answer, looking for the ability to ride this out, looking for the ability, as you say, to come out on the other end. And the interesting thing will be what is on the other end. because of the changes. This may not be the same environment several weeks from now. And so helping to understand what that environment is also, I think, going to be part of what you need to be able to do. And so appreciate those words as well. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Hey, Thomas, Commissioner Boyce, I hope all is well. Hey, so traditionally you all have focused on tech-oriented startups. Is that still the case? And if so, as we come out of this, are you going to be looking at expanding beyond tech as sort of your primary? I know you go outside of tech, but as your primary sort of focus in terms of business development, because you said something earlier that really struck me, or maybe it was Christy, but that you're helping businesses access SBA lending resources and things like that, in addition to some of the startup resources. As you know, capital is one thing, but also just sort of business development is another. You know, a business planning, business organization. And that's oftentimes what the hang up is with small businesses. So again, my original question is, you know, you've traditionally focused on tech. Are you looking at after coming out of this a more expansive, and I know you do now, but really sort of opening up the doors to not just tech oriented business development opportunities?
Sure, Commissioner, thanks for the question. By the way, nice beard. I haven't seen you in a beard before.
I know, right?
Pretty good.
Thanks,
so, to a couple of parts to the answer to your question. So, you know, technical services are primarily what we provide. You know, we talk a lot about the capital because that's what helps drive these companies into the marketplace, and we're continuing to grow capital programs. In fact, we're in the market raising a new investment fund, and you know, I should have shared in the outset that our partners on the investment side of the business, which are primarily corporations in town, they're still there to support us, and they're excited for us to have a first close on that fund in the July timeframe. So to be able to go to market in this environment with fresh capital for companies is important. But the first part of that is the technical services we provide, which is business development, access to customers, how to set the company up, and with the right governance, all those kinds of things is our bread and butter. And we've been able to shift all those services to online. You know, we have weekly CEO forums now with our companies, and you know, peer learning along with the things that we provide. We have expanded our reach primarily, well, 100% focused on diversity and inclusion opportunities. So we have been helping more and more companies, as you know, that are non-tech, but as well as tech, to grow the D&I part of our community. We believe that the way Franklin County wins in the talent battle, which is going to continue, and it'll probably be even stronger after COVID, is to attract diverse and inclusive talent. And so the work we've been doing with Franklin County at Ford Cities has really, you know, been instrumental for us in spreading into that market, as well as the work we're doing as an ecosystem builder for the city. So it'll be interesting to see what the mix is going to be. You know, our expertise is on the tech sector, which is broadly life sciences as well as software. And with the continued growth with Nationwide Children's and OSU and entrepreneurs in the region, you know, that's probably always going to be our forte. But now that we have expertise in connecting companies with banks and navigating COVID and those sorts of things, focused on D&I, you know, we're going to continue to see how we can support.
I'm sorry, I had to unmute my button, but you know, I think that'll be critical, and I'd love to pick up the conversation maybe in a couple of months and look at, because I know we're thinking about that as a county, and that'll be a part of where nationally the economy grows is small businesses, and that's why the SBA is investing so much into that. And if you look through the CARES Act provisions, there is a component specifically for minorities and diversity inclusion in terms of businesses. And so, I mean, it's really something that we as Central Ohio need to be tactical about as we try to grow those types of businesses, even beyond the tech industry, which, as we can see, is critical even in this scenario. So let's circle back maybe in a couple of months. I'd love to pick up the conversation and dive deeper.
I'd enjoy that. And to the extent you would like to visit in advance of 2 months, you can find me in this chair 10 to 12 hours a day.
All right. Thanks, folks.
Administrator Wilson, would you like to jump in here?
Thank you, Commissioner O'Grady. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Christy, for coming this morning to talk about the great work you've been doing. I think I've been involved since the inception of your relationship with Franklin County and providing some of those first matching funds to match those dollars. You've had some success stories. I know core lessons in the very beginning with the spices, and they've done well as a minority micro business. In the flames of COVID-19, we've been so consumed with trying to do all our work there. It's in the midst of all that, we are in the middle of county government month. So we're trying to look at recognizing all of the important contributions and the efforts that the county commissioners are involved in throughout the year. And one of those most important things we're involved in is generation of jobs through the support of small business and entrepreneurship. That was one of the reasons why I enthusiastically bought into Forward Cities and creating jobs and entrepreneurship in underserved communities. You talk about, some of those minority businesses that have been built up over the years. I would love to have the opportunity to see us highlight some of those success stories, some of the minority businesses that have been able to be successful, and how we can continue to have them grow by having some video, this conversation from some of those minority businesses that our public affairs office can highlight and bring attention to. So I would love to have a conversation around some of those things being a part of what we are trying to highlight during county government month.
Ken, thank you for that. You see Christy and I nodding our heads, so we'll take that action and follow up with you.
All right, thank you.
If there are no further comments or questions, move for adoption of 253-20.
And I will second.
Moved and seconded voting. Commissioner Boyce?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady?
Yes.
Resolution number 253-20 has been adopted.
Tom, Christy, thank you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, you guys.
Have a good day.
You too.
Resolution number 254-20. Resolution awarding a service agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the Community Shelter Board to implement Franklin County's COVID-19 Federal Stimulus Community Development Block Grant Program in the amount of $500,000.
Good morning, Commissioners. This agreement is for the purpose to establish new temporary emergency shelters. This is in order to deconcentrate existing emergency shelters, increase social distancing required to reduce the spread of COVID-19, as well as isolate and quarantine households experiencing homelessness or showing symptoms or have had positive tests for COVID-19. This contract utilizes COVID-19 Community Development Block Grant funds, amount of $500,000. We respectfully request your approval of this agreement.
Hey, is this part of the funds that we've received from? I just want to make sure, are these funds that we've actually received from the federal, the new dollars, or is this part of our already? I just want to.
That's correct, Commissioner. We received $1.2 million in CDBG funds. We received almost $600,000 in emergency solution grant dollars.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I was fiddling with my iPad while you were talking, so I missed this. I apologize. And where are we putting these dollars to right now? Where are we deploying these?
They'll be going to temporary shelters. After these two agreements, Commissioner Michelle Heritage, the Executive Director of the Community Shelter Board, will be available to elaborate on that.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Move for adoption of 254-20.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded voting, Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
yes,
Resolution number 254-20 has been adopted. Resolution number 255-20. Resolution awarding a service agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the Franklin County Shelter Board to implement Franklin County's COVID-19 Federal Stimulus Emergency Solutions Grant program in the amount of $595,590.
The second contract, Commissioners, with the Community Shelter Board is for the same purpose as the first contract. This utilizes a different funding source. This utilizes the $595,590 the county was granted under the COVID-19 Solutions Grant funds. Both allocations have been approved under the program amendments to the county's 2019 action plan and have met all requisite citizen participation requirements. Again, Michelle's available, and we respectfully request this agreement as well.
Yeah, I think, thanks for that. You know, I think I wasn't clear my first time out. So what I'm not clear of in these two legislation is what it's going towards. And I understand that emergency housing and whatnot, but specifically, what are we doing? Is that something that Ms. Heritage is going to talk about? And can we just have her go ahead and talk about them now?
I can.
At the end.
Michelle, why don't you go ahead and brief the commissioners on the latest regarding emergency shelter?
Will do. Thanks, commissioners. Appreciate you having me this morning, and good morning to everybody. I'll talk a little bit about where we are on the response to the COVID in terms of folks experiencing homelessness. We continue to work on two critical pathways. The first pathway is to deconcentrate these shelters to get the appropriate amount of social distancing that is needed. All of you have been inside of our shelters, you've served there and been there numerous times, and you know they're just not constructed for social distancing. And so we had to open our first social distancing shelter at 40 West Long. The YMCA is the partner there, and there's 150 men, and that opened about 2 weeks ago. Last week, we opened Sullivan Recreation Center for social distancing. There are 50 men who are over the age of 50 and have other things that compromise them, whether it be their health status or some other kind of challenge, which makes them specifically susceptible to COVID. We will be opening on Thursday our third social distancing shelter, and that will be at the Hilltop branch of the YMCA, and this will be for women. Once we get that shelter open, all of our shelter array is able to have social distancing. Everyone's able to spread apart as far as they need to be and follow the CDC guidelines. We do not anticipate needing to open another social distancing shelter. I say we don't anticipate because in this COVID response, everything is very fluid. What we're seeing is some people are becoming newly homeless. We're already seeing folks that were sort of on the edge and they're showing up. And mostly these are folks that have been unstably housed. They've been staying with friends or relatives, and those friends or relatives are asking them to move on because of their concerns for contagion. The second critical pathway is those shelters for isolation and quarantine. And these are for people who have tested positive for COVID, they are under investigation for COVID, or they have been certified by a medical professional that they have COVID symptoms and they are assumed to be positive. Also for people who have been exposed to the people I just named. And these shelters are for families and for single men and women. We opened our first one on the north side of town, and that was about a week and a half ago. And we will be opening our second, again, on the north side of town. and those shelters will have those folks in them to keep them safe. In terms of those shelters, those are a little more technical. They really are a medicalized homeless shelter, and that means we have to have medical personnel on site. I want to recognize and thank the Franklin County Health Department and Joe Mazzola and his team. They have been absolutely amazing to work with and incredibly supportive. In the first isolation and quarantine shelter, we are using Medical Reserve Corps nurses on a voluntary basis. And that's challenging to make sure that we've got enough people to volunteer. And we thank the Franklin County Health Department for really helping us there. Ohio Health has detailed 2 doctors to us, and they are our medical advisors, and we actually triage all the cases with them every single day. For our second shelter for isolation and quarantine, Lower Lights Christian Health Center has come alongside us to be the medical staff on site there. And Adam H. has been working with us diligently because they are going to be providing a behavioral health navigator. And that person will be working across both of our shelters for isolation and quarantine. We are seeing people that are showing up for these shelters are very ill. And I think that's because they're becoming sick first. There are people that have significant problems with mental health, addiction, obstructive pulmonary diseases, asthma, seizure disorders. I could go on, but they're very complex medically. And so having those medical folks there is really helpful to us. In all of this, YMCA is our partner, and they're staffing the shelters, and they also are providing security. Commissioner Boyce, some of the costs are, the greatest cost is staffing to staff the shelters. Also costs involved with some of these shelters in terms of making changes to the buildings like the rec centers to make them safer. The motel hotels, we are paying, although a very low daily rate, we are paying a low rate. And then a lot of the supplies and things that we need to make things happen, including personal protective equipment and others. Do want to recognize also Mid-Ohio Food Bank, who has committed to feeding all of these folks at all of these shelters, and is just doing an incredible job of that. And I want to thank all of you for being incredibly supportive. You've come along beside us. This has been a Herculean task, and it's just, although difficult, it has really been an amazing journey to see this community coming together so quickly for these incredibly vulnerable people. And I just want to say how grateful that we are for you and for so many others in the community.
Michelle, Commissioner Grady, may I continue?
Please.
Michelle, let me just first thank you and the Community Shelter Board for being so responsive to in this environment. It's really refreshing just to see Central Ohio be able to just click into gear when we need to for such a crisis kind of environment. So please share with the board, and I know I speak on behalf of my colleagues, please share with your board that we're grateful for their work and for CSB being so responsive. But you made me think of a couple of different questions that I want to just throw out there quickly too. First is, given the temporary nature of the pandemic with regards to social distancing and whatnot, and specifically the shelters that you named in recreation centers and whatnot. One, your typical program in CSB is not just as I'm not telling you this, but maybe the listening audience, is not simply just housing. It is a variety of resources and services that are around that sort of get people on track. In the temporary environment that we're in now, are you still applying the same kinds of resources? And I'm not being critical if you're not, because I can understand it just might not. Right now, we're just trying to provide an environment to not spread the virus. And so I can understand how that could not actually put us in position for that. But can you just talk about the outside of housing and the social distancing? Are we still able to get those folks resources they need? And if not, what's the plan after this sort of lets up, where we can sort of make sure folks are still queued up to receive services that they might need?
Thanks for the question, Commissioner Boyce. Appreciate it. And a couple things. For the folks that are in the isolation and quarantine shelter, is really difficult to work with them. We've actually, Celebrate One has lent us some of their iPads so that we can do tele services, whether it's telehealth or other kinds of housing services. And we've also tried to acquire a few iPads. They're very difficult to come by right now because everybody is doing what we're doing right now. And so they're hard to come by. The folks that are in the isolation and quarantine shelter, we're doing less housing work with them. And part of that has to do with most of them are pretty ill at this point and they can't leave their room. They have to stay in their room all the time for the most part. So that's difficult. For all the social distancing shelters and the current shelter array that we have, we are continuing business as usual. The rehousing partners are continuing to go into the shelters and work with folks. And the YMCA rehousing team is continuing to work with single adults to try to house them. I will tell you though, we have found it really difficult because a lot of landlords just will not meet us. They will not show us units. They will not consider renting right now. And many have told us that they aren't going to do any of this for at least another month or so. So even though we continue to work on these rehousing, it's getting incredibly difficult. And so we're seeing that back door getting clogged up. We also, there's not a lot of unit turnover in the community right now because there's a moratorium on kind of folks moving. And I think some people who may have wanted to move in the past have decided to kind of stick there. And so it's gotten a lot more difficult. I do think once we're past this emergency time when we're just, responding to keep people safe and healthy, prevention is going to be a key. I think there's a lot of families and men and women who were close to the edge and now they're in a hole. They haven't been able to pay the rent for 2 or 3 months. And, again, I know you all know this well, but for our viewers, for people who are very low income, getting behind by a couple months can be the deal breaker that has them toppling into homelessness. And so I think as a community, we're really going to have to think about how do we do prevention to the greatest extent possible. So we're trying to look at how do we gear up to do a lot of preventive work when this starts to lighten up and we're able to get back to a little bit of more of a regular rhythm.
Michelle, I'm glad you said that. I think the community is going to have to come together on so many things because as people have lost jobs and as jobs have gone away, our community is going to be facing unprecedented losses and dealing with the loss of so much. Residents are going to be dealing with loss of homes, loss of jobs, loss of so many things. We need to come together as a community to deal with the after. And certainly what you're doing is a part of that and a large part of that, but there are so many partners that are going to need to come together. So thank you for thinking about that.
Thanks, Commissioner. And as always, we will stand ready to do whatever you call on us to do. And we agree, I think preventing homelessness is going to be a really big, important thing. And I echo your comments. It's going to have, the whole community is going to need to be involved. All of our citizens, the public sector, the private sector, everybody. We have an unprecedented challenge, I think, ahead of us at this time.
I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I was on my iPad and trying to find something in the legislation and I got off page here. I'm sorry. Just doesn't want to cooperate with me today. All right, here we go. All right. Are there any further comments or questions? And I'll just again say before I do move for adoption of this, Thank you. I think this pandemic, this environment underscores the renewal of the conversation about homelessness and shelter. And I think when we come out, I think that we should have as we get into this affordable housing development era for Franklin County, I really think that we should have a conversation where you're sort of guiding another element of that conversation and in terms of housing. And so, and I know this is something that Commissioner Brown's very passionate about in terms of affordable housing, workforce housing. And so it'd be great to have you come back maybe with the commissioners and just talk a little deeper with us about coming out of the pandemic and some of these folks and some of the issues and challenges. So so thanks for what you're doing and what you represent.
Thank
But
you.
if there are no further comments or questions, move for adoption of 255-20.
Second.
Right around. Okay.
Moved and seconded voting. Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 255-20 has been adopted. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay.
Resolution number 256-20. Resolution awarding a service agreement between the Board of Commissioners and the Columbus Urban League to implement a resiliency-focused project for minorities, women, and small businesses utilizing Franklin County COVID-19 Federal Stimulus Community Development Block Grant and Economic Development and Planning Department Quick Strike Funds in the amount of $125,000.
Commissioners, the next two resolutions are really illustrations that extraordinary times require extraordinary measures, and our ability to work with our partners in the community is critical at this point in time. And this resolution is really a great example of that. In association with the Columbus Urban League, they will be creating a resiliency-focused project for minorities, women, and small businesses that will allow and provide clients the access, counseling, and technical assistance and information that are needed for the complex number of programs that are out there currently under the at both the CARES Act and the SBA process. So, Commissioner, specifically, this is a case where the Urban League will be working with a population that it knows well that may not quite understand how the process works. As you know, for the SBA program, that program has been focused on working through banks, specifically, and applications through banks. Some of the folks that the Urban League works with may not have that access to banks. They may not be bankable necessarily, but certainly need the help and assistance to find their way through the process so that they have the ability to get involved in some of the funding activities that are available to them. Specifically, under this contract, we're looking at the minority and small business certification assistance that they will provide through City of Columbus and Franklin County, State of Ohio, and the Small Business Association. Financial readiness counseling designed specifically to allow companies and businesses the opportunity to receive assistance through certified business advisors and financial professionals from the Central Ohio banking industry. Client loan packaging, the idea and the ability to create and implement RFP referral plans, including that will include the execution of client intake criteria and recording client processing through the progress and monitoring of these applications. So, Commissioners, we also mentioned that the funding source for this particular program is $125,000 total. $75,000 will come from the COVID CDBG stimulus funds and $50,000 from the Department of Economic Development's Quick Strike Fund. So, Commissioners, I would ask for your approval this morning of this resolution. I know that Stephanie Hightower is on this call and may offer some more comments.
President Hightower, are you there? I thought I saw her.
If she's on, it says she's
On somewhere.
You might be on mute.
Yeah, she could. No, she's not on mute. President Hightower, are you available? Well, maybe she could be preoccupied. These meetings can get a little involved, and she might be doing something else.
Well, President O'Grady, I do have a question for EDP then, if that's okay.
Sure, please.
Director Schimmer, so who is the contact person at the Urban League, and what number do people call if they want to help? I'm getting a ton of these calls, and I'd love to have a person and a number to direct them to.
Melanie Carter is the person I've worked with as far as like establishing a contract. It's 257-6300, and then ask for Ms. Carter.
Just say that again one more time.
Yeah. Hi, Commissioners. Essentially, Melanie Carter was the point of contact for the contract at the Urban League. The Urban League's direct phone number is 614-257-6300. What I'll do is I'll get a specific phone number for you, and we'll get that publicized as soon as possible.
And just to clarify, folks, it's Melinda Carter. Not Melanie, Melinda Carter.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Eric. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
So these funds are going to the Urban League for consulting services to help businesses to access SBA loans. These loans are potentially these are forgivable loans. This is Eric and I, Jim and I, we've talked about this stuff in the past. This is really great stuff because these are potentially, I mean, the potential here for these businesses to receive these loans and to access these dollars. One, there are literally hundreds of billions of dollars coming from out into the local communities across the country from the SBA. So there's a lot of money to be accessed here. And then two, many more businesses can potentially benefit from these, and depending on how they perform these are potentially forgivable loans.
Commissioner, the key here is that I guess I'd say that the Urban League is going to be offering ombudsman services.
Exactly.
They will be the link between the complications of a federal government program and the ability to actually understand what a business is going through on a day-to-day basis.
Which I think is really important because I keep reading that accessing these loans is not so easy. And for a small business or any business that's not used to dealing with the SBA, it's not so easy to do. So I think this is really important, technical assistance and a little bit of hand holding to get them to get to the SBA and through the banks, I think is really important.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Brown. I have, as a small business owner myself, I've done the loan process and have been approved and not have been approved with the SBA. And I will tell you, it is a cumbersome process that requires a lot of information that's completely not a useful part of the process. And and so I think this assistance will be helpful. The thing that I would maybe push in addition to Commissioner Brown's comments, though, is that I'd like a report when this is all done on the number of businesses that we were able to help that came through the Urban League and actually got funding from the SBA, because oftentimes they can do their part, the Urban League, but then, they still got to be approved to the SBA and the bank. And that's where sometimes the rubber meets the road and it just doesn't happen. So I'd like a post process report on fund. I see Stephanie's here now.
Yeah, President Hightower.
I'd like to Jim Schimmer, I'd like a post report if that's possible at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Commissioner, we built that into this contract as well. So yes, we will have that.
President Hightower, welcome. Good morning. How are you? We don't have we don't have any volume.
Unfortunately, it looks like her audio and video are not connected through the same communication channels, so I'm unable to help her.
Look like it's attempting to connect. I think if she takes the mute off, I think she's connected.
Can we hear
President
you?
Hightower?
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good
Okay,
morning.
sorry. We're gonna turn off that other. As you can see, I am technologically challenged. Give me Melinda's number. And just really want to say first, thank you, because I'm watching you guys. I was on earlier. Thank you to the commissioners. Thank you to Administrator Wilson and Eric Janis for recognizing the Columbus Urban League as being the economic first responder for the urban communities, and in particular, this resiliency fund for small women and minority-owned businesses. As you know, for the last 3 years, we have served with the state of Ohio a minority business assistance center. We have a large number of minority businesses that we are already working with. And so to be able to have this opportunity to everything that you've talked about, the three of you have talked about, giving them access to SBA loans, helping them through the process, the technical support that is needed, looking at credit repair, not only for their businesses, but also for their personal accounts. All of those things we know are going to be vitally important to a group of people that are already disproportionately going to be impacted by the pandemic. And so we're, what we see as a resiliency fund, I know I've been listening this morning talking about what's next for our community. And I know we are in the middle of a crisis, but for us, this is about what comes next. If in fact we cannot get these businesses back up and running, then it's even going to be more devastating. And we are figuring that probably over the next 18 months, we're going to have to really be concentrating on getting small minority and women-owned businesses back up and running. They are the backbone of this community and our country. And so just really appreciate the opportunity to help in this way.
Hey, Stephanie, President Hightower, can you give us that we identified that Melinda Carter was the contact, but what's a good number to reach her, and who should, if we want to refer someone to you, what's the number or email or whatever the best way to reach that person is?
Sure. Melinda Carter, we will be, once this legislation is passed, we will be bringing on an individual that is proficient and a subject matter expert. Will be joining our team along with who we already have, because we know the volume is going to be huge, Commissioner Boyce. And so they can call 614-736-9255. That will be the initial number that they can call. And that's Melinda Carter, or they can reach her at mcarter@cul.org. But we're just really, like I said, appreciate the support and recognizing us again as the economic first responder. I also want to say thank you for all of your work around this housing prevention or eviction prevention and housing stabilization. Administrator Wilson also has asked us to step in there as well. So we have put together a housing stabilization program. We want to be able to keep people in their apartments, keep them where they're at, to make sure they're stabilized. So thank you also for the support there. I didn't have a chance last week to thank you for that as well. But we are up and running. We have not stopped. We have not closed our doors. We all know that there are at least 900 people that are on the eviction roster coming up in June. And so how do we keep those people housed? And that's what we want to help do, as well as our minority business people. We want to make sure that they can maintain their housing so that they can continue to do their work as well.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Are there any further comments or questions? Not, President O'Grady?
I've spoken with county commissioners in other counties in Cuyahoga County and Montgomery and Hamilton County about this as well. And I know that they are looking into this Executive Budish in Cuyahoga County is looking into this in particular. So this is, they're going to have to figure out partners in their communities to be able to do this with. They like what we're doing here, and so they are looking to follow our lead potentially. So great work.
Going to be important.
Well, if there are no further comments or questions, I enthusiastically move for adoption of 256-20.
And I'll second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 256-20 has been adopted.
Thanks, President.
Thank you. Thank you.
Resolution number 257-20, YMCA Quick Strike Fund Housing Stabilization Program in the amount of $250,000.
Commissioners, this is our last resolution and equally important. The major social mission of the YMCA is to provide safe, secure, and supportive housing to Franklin County's homeless population. They're doing this at 40 West Long Street and partnering with the Community Shelter Board. The YMCA of Central Ohio is currently serving 400 residents at the facility, plus an additional 200 residents as at an emergency shelter. The Y is responding to greater demands placed on it by this recent COVID pandemic and needs assistance to continuing its ongoing role in that area. The Y is specifically under this contract will provide maintenance, upkeep, and operational expenses to run the organization. It will continue to provide maintenance, upkeep, and operational expenses for 40 West Long, to provide community shelter for homeless individuals, and we'll be continuing to partner with the Community Shelter Board as it's moved along. Additionally, there is a continuing maintenance, upkeep, and operational issues associated to provide child care services for the residents of Franklin County through and after this pandemic crisis. I've asked Tony Collins to join us this morning and answer any questions you have. But again, this is an extraordinary situation where the Y certainly needs our assistance, and I'm recommending that you approve this resolution this morning. Tony?
You're on mute.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Commissioners, Administrator Wilson, Administrator Janis, Director Schimmer, thank you all so much for considering the YMCA of Central Ohio this morning. We're very proud to be a part of the team to continue to serve our community even during this crisis. Director Schimmer just mentioned some of the things that we've been doing. Pandemic childcare, we have sites set up to help serve the families of our first responders and healthcare workers. Of course, we're doing a lot of community collaboration, hosting food drops. We even have one of our wellness centers that's hosting as a fire station as we speak to help with the spreading out of fire personnel. And of course, the emphasis of our work has been around the emergency shelter side of it. I think you all know that we've been involved for a long time serving Franklin County needs in the housing piece. We are responsible for about 1,800 people that live under the roof of the YMCA helps to take care of, as well as helps coordinate services for all those folks that we serve. We have about 700 folks at Van Buren Emergency Shelter, which is you heard earlier from Michelle Heritage and our partner at the Community Shelter Board, that we had to act quickly to help decentralize the folks at that shelter. And so we immediately opened 40 West Long Street to accommodate an additional 200 men who are experiencing homelessness, both folks who had been housed at Van Buren as well as folks from other shelters, so that they could decentralize. Since then, as you heard from Michelle earlier, we've gone on to set up and operate 3 additional shelters, including our Hilltop YMCA this week and another isolation shelter. The primary focus of that expansion of our shelter system has been Long Street, as you heard about. Long Street, as you already know, hosts 400 men who live in the building. the building is always been a challenge, as it's been around since 1924. We have always subsidized the folks that live in that building with the help of CSB's funding for direct services and direct social service. We are able to serve them well. And over the past few years, we've of course used our operating dollars to subsidize that work. With the impact of the crisis, we're projecting right now to lose $23 million in those operating dollars. So we are struggling to find ways to keep resources to keep Long Street open, which currently houses those 400 folks, as well as the 200 folks in the emergency shelter system. The dollars from this partnership will enable us to continue to serve during the pandemic crisis, the emergency shelter use of Long Street, as well as help us be able to provide that housing, subsidize that housing through the remainder of the year. These dollars will also help with indirect expenses. As I mentioned earlier, our incredible partners with CSB help pay for the direct expenses like the staff, maybe the cots, those types of things. But the indirect and support expenses, especially the utilities and the operating costs of Long Street, would be paid through this grant fund. So we're, again, appreciative of your support, your partnership. You've always been a good partner with YMCA. We are honored to continue to serve the residents of Franklin County with you.
Tony, thanks, and again, thanks for all that you do. I'm sorry, President O'Grady, may I proceed with the question? I think that's yes. Tony, given the adjustments that you as the YMCA have had to make during the pandemic crisis, is this enough to stabilize Long Street for the rest of the year? Do you feel as though, because this homelessness element of this crisis is something that's a deeper issue than even the pandemic, addressing the pandemic itself, because it existed before. And now you layer this, and now it's even deeper hole for those people who are experiencing homelessness. But my question is this enough to get Long Street through this year? Whether the pandemic ends soon or not, are you going to need more? What's the situation? And I know you're working with other partners like the city and the private sector. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of just where things stand once we make this appropriation?
Commissioner Boyce, thanks for the question. I'll try to be quick with the answer. As some of you know, the YMCA is always, we're the original social enterprise. We've always counted on those dollars when a member invests in a membership, or when a kid pays for a week at camp at the Ward Y, or when a kid signs up for swimming lessons at the North Y. A little bit of those dollars help fund our social impact work, including our housing work, as well as other things in the community. And with those dollars eliminated, those operating revenues eliminated, we're definitely in a challenging situation, and we are rallying everything we can to make sure that not only can we continue to provide this housing and homeless response work through the pandemic, but also through the end of the year. And it's going to take a little bit of everything. First and foremost, so you all know, we've asked all of our members in our community to continue to invest in us. At this point, more than 70% of our members continue to pay their member dues to help support our work in the community. And if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be even able to have this conversation. And then in addition to that, as Commissioner Boyce just said, we've worked very hard to ask our partners in the community, both private and public, to support this work. We've been very blessed. Our partners from AEP, the Columbus Foundation, United Way, many of our private partners have stepped forward and helped support in contribution commitments to help with this work as well. As you mentioned, we are working with the city of Columbus as well to support this work. So each and every penny and dollar is going to be critical for us to sustain this work throughout the pandemic as well as throughout the year. And we're hoping, quite frankly, that we can get our operations back up and running in the late summer so that some of those dollars can come back in and continue to invest in this work. And finally, I have to say this, as you all know and heard earlier in the year, Long Street itself, 40 West Long Street is a very difficult asset for us because it's got historic, meaning, and it's been with us for so many years. But unfortunately, that building itself costs us $1 million a year to keep open. And so it is a huge anchor that limits us from preventing to be able to doing more impact work. So we're working with our partners at Community Shelter Board. We've got board members who are active and other volunteers that are helping us try to find solutions for a more permanent answer to Longstreet. But in the meantime, these dollars are critical to our success in being able to sustain through the rest of the year.
Thank you. If there are no further comments or questions?
No.
Move for adoption of 257-20.
Second.
Moved and seconded voting, Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 257-20 has been adopted.
Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate your help this morning.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to, thanks, Tony. Let's move on to justice policy and programs.
Resolution number 258-20, resolution authorizing 3 sub-grant awards and contracts for services to provide law enforcement and crime reduction initiatives under the fiscal year 2019 Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $262,612.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Daniels, Director of the Office of Justice Policy and Programs. This is the first of the sub-awards through the fiscal 2019 Buren Justice Assistance Grant. As you know, we administer the dollars for not only Franklin County, but we also administer the dollars for the City of Columbus and the City of Whitehall. So this is the agreement with the City of Whitehall to continue to support their youth violence reduction, with the City of Columbus, who tell us that they are going to be using their funding for tactical upgrades to the helicopter fleet, and the first set of agreements with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for continued community policing. We anticipate bringing future contracts under this, but for the moment, these are the 3 that we're ready to go, and we want to go ahead and get those out as soon as possible. Pending any questions, we'd ask for your approval.
If there are no comments or questions, move for adoption of 258-20.
Second.
Moved and seconded voting, Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 258-20 has been adopted.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Michael. Human resources.
Resolution number 259-20, resolution authorizing a contract modification with Finley for benefits consulting services for the Franklin County Cooperative Health Improvement Program in the amount of $168,000.
Is Mr. Young on?
And
Rob Young?
I believe Jody might be on the line. If you could press *6 to unmute your line, Jody.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks
Good
for the
morning.
direction on the. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. This is Jody Lees at the Franklin County Human Resources Office. This modification is to an existing contract with Finley and adds consulting services for 2 requests for proposal. Both RFPs are required because we are nearing the end of current contracts with each of these vendors. The first RFP is for a benefits administration vendor, and those services include the electronic eligibility and enrollment system, COBRA services, ACA services, as well as administration of our flexible spending account program. The second RFP that we will need to conduct is for our short and long-term disability program. The total cost of consulting services under this modification is $168,000. And pending any questions, I request approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, move for adoption of 259-20.
Second.
Moved and seconded voting, Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 259-20 has been adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Thanks.
The purchase.
Resolution number 260-20, resolution approving purchases for various Franklin County agencies in the amount of $1,501,338.39. Megan, it looks like you're on mute if you called in addition to being on video. Just 1 second, you're connecting now. Hold on 1 second, Director. Let me see if I can help you. Megan,
How about that?
you're on.
Excellent. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, commissioners.
Good
Megan
morning.
Perry Valier. This resolution requests your approval of 67 purchase orders for which the county auditor has pre-certified available funding. This week, 9 out of 12 eligible POs totaling $74,297.33 are being presented for award to 2 minority-owned business enterprises, 1 small and emerging business enterprise, and 6 women-owned business enterprises. This represents 75% of the eligible PO volume and 59% of the eligible PO dollar value. Pending any questions, I request your approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, move for passage of 260-20.
Second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 260-20 has been adopted.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Megan. To the Board of Commissioners.
Resolution number 261-20, resolution authorizing a transfer of funds from the general fund to the wireless 911 fund for the payment of interest earnings from calendar year 2019.
Good morning, Commissioners. Zach Clerk with the Office of Management and Budget. This resolution would transfer $23,378 to the wireless 911 fund. This amount will be distributed to the 3 municipal public service answering points who are eligible for funding this year. That would include the City of Columbus, who will receive $20,312, City of Dublin, $1,725, and $1,341 to Grove City. Pending any questions, would ask for your approval of this resolution.
If there are no comments or questions, move for adoption of 261-20.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, voting Commissioner Boyce,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Grady.
Yes.
Resolution number 261-20 has been adopted.
Thank you.
All right. Dean, do we have any journalizations this morning?
No, Commissioner.
All right. If there's nothing else, then that'll conclude this morning's general session for April 14th, 2020. We will see everybody back here next week. Good morning, everyone. We'll see you in a little while. I'll talk to you in a little while.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Right.